taking it in for the first time probably since I was a kid, and just being at peace. And I remember that dirty fucking hippie comment just kind of falling out of my head. And I was like, huh. So what I recognized at this point was that the part of me that wanted to protect myself, that, my fear, was essentially shelling me really, really hard. And as soon as I let go of it, I started to feel for the first time in a very long time. And from there on out, I ended up going to my first regional burn, which was Alchemy down in Georgia. And I had the most transformative experience of my life. I remember, God, the journey there was absolutely nuts. So, golly, this trip was, man. So what ended up happening was I wanted to ride with a friend. I had a friend, Nicole. I'll say her last name. She wants me to say her last name. That I rode with out there. And we also took some of Tree's stuff. So I have a 2-door Honda. And that means that there's not a whole lot of room in the car. And we had 3 people's worth of stuff in a 2-door driving 8 hours to Georgia, which is where the burn's at. And I ended up having to lean forward because the car was so packed for 8 hours. And I don't know if you've ever had to sit forward while driving for 8 hours to something you've never been to before. But it's an interesting learning experience for sure. So we finally get there after 8 hours of driving. And, that's not bad. 8 hours isn't bad. 8 hours is long, but it's not bad. But then we get to the gate, which neither one of us was informed was closed. If the gate's closed, you can't get into the event. And we rolled up, and friend TJ's at the front. I see his face. He's just sitting there in the chair, just chilling. It's like, I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock at night. We roll up, and I was like, hi. First impression. I look over to the left. There's a mud field where everyone's parking, and there's a car stuck, and there's cars, just getting caught up in the mud all over the place. And I was like, okay, this place is a little chaotic. All right. And I look at him and was like, hey, can we come in? He's like, nope. It's like, oh, okay. And you're trying to figure out what makes the most sense and how to approach a conversation with someone you've just met associated with a community you barely know. So I was just trying to keep it polite. And I was like, do you know when it will be open? Nope. I was like, okay. So I went ahead and drove to the local Walmart where apparently other people who could not get into the gate had congregated. And we kept getting told to move by the manager again and again and again and again and again. Finally, in the morning, it was like, forgot, somewhere around like 7, 8 o'clock, somebody announced that the gate was open. And I had been up this whole time. My co-writer had taken a nap, which I was fine with. I just couldn't sleep because I needed to get somewhere where I knew I could rest before I could turn everything off, mentally speaking. And so we get to the event, we get in, and magically don't get stuck with this little car that I have. And we get to the line, and we're in line to get a ticket, and I remember somebody walking around with a handle of Taka vodka. And they were like, anybody want a shot? Anybody want a shot? And I was so tired at this point. I had been up since like 8 a.m. the previous day, so that many hours. And I, of course, raised my hand and was like, here, please. And just took the most gigantic swig of vodka. And the person just looked at me and they're like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm fantastic now. And so now that I had a nice vodka buzz going, I'm walking through the line, and I see this guy in line, and he looks really interesting. And I was like, I want to talk to this one. So I walk up to him, I start talking to him. I find out that he was a reporter for a famous news place. And he had just gotten done being out in somewhere in the Middle East and doing a report. And we were discussing like what you can show and what you're not allowed to show and censorship and all these different things in line because this is like the freedom of expression event. And so we ended up bonding a little bit because I had just gotten done deploying to the Middle East and he had just come back from the Middle East. And so we're BSing. And then we get to the front of the line. So we get our ticket. And I'm like, all right, cool. Let's go. And I'm like, well, we got to wait for these trailers. So they had a trailer system that carries people and all their stuff on and off the property. And we had to wait for the trailer. Well, there wasn't the best system this year. I'm not dogging them out. I'm just saying there was no signs to tell you where to stand. So either side of the line was free game. So like if you stood on the left side, they might pick up from the right side. Then you move all your stuff to the right side, they're going to pick up from the left side, and vice versa. For a few hours, I think that went on. And then we both decided to split up. One of us waited while the other one went ahead to the camp with the trailer. And so I went ahead with the trailer, and I'm riding on this trailer with a bunch of other hippies, a bunch of other folks, and I'm coming onto the property for the very first time, and I said to myself, don't expect anything. Keep an open mind, like, do whatever you can to embrace and be present in this moment. And so I did, and I remember pulling through the very first area, and this was a very wooded area, by the way. This is forest, tons of forest, with big clearings. And so we came into the first clearing, and there's just tents everywhere, little mini structures, little art pieces, people wearing the most multicolored, wild, patterned, imaginative stuff you've ever seen. And I look over to my right, and there's this guy at one of the camps in a red suit, but like a cool-looking red suit with a red top hat. And he's cooking some breakfast in this like amazing suit. And I just had never seen anything like that in real life. I'd always wanted to see a sarcastic, dressed impression of a, event that we normally do in other particular clothes. Like, very specifically had wanted this and had not seen this. And he sees me, and I see him, and he looks me right in the eye from like 20, 30 yards off, and he tips his hat while he's cooking the eggs and goes right back to it and just back into the zone. And I was like, I'm home. And I really felt that. And after that, I remember really reevaluating how I hung out with people, how I did things in my life, how I approached my spirituality, how I, navigated dealing with people that were nude, and allowing these natural things to take place without putting all of these guidelines or expectations or judgment or any of that on it. And so after my first one, I decided that was where I wanted to grow. That's where I wanted to assign myself, was the burn community. And so I did. And I went to quite a few other ones after that. And after a few years, I, like many people who are a part of that community, ended up spinning fire. Surprise. And have been doing so ever since. I got quite a few that I spin that I love, a whole bunch. My buddy Dan, he's the one who got me into spinning fire. I've been dancing my whole life. I'm mostly self-taught, and I used to like throwing raves and go to clubs and whatnot. And so I taught myself how to dance by moving around groups of people and distributing party favors. And he was like, "No, dude, you gotta spin fire." And I was like, "I don't spin fire, man. I just watch it." He's like, "You're a dancer." I'm like, "Yeah." And he finally just shoves them in my hand, and he's like, "Spin the fucking things." And I was like, "All right." And I started playing with them, and I was like, "Oh shit, these are amazing." And for those of you who want to know what those were, they were triads. You can get them at Forged Creations from Jay Becker, I believe is his name. So that was my first prop, and I fell in love immediately. I practiced all the time. It was really great because you could practice inside with a little bit of space. You didn't have to have a lot. And I just remember when I first started, I had an idea in my head about what I wanted to look like in like 5-10 years, something like that. And it's how I look right now. And I had that thought then. And so here we are. So this is my first and won't be my last solo, but I will be trying to do more conversational and interactive audio pieces from here on out. If you enjoyed this, let me know. If you didn't, definitely let me know. I love critique. And people who think they're being mean. It's actually really just fun to read them all. So do whatever you want. Be happy. And I'll catch you later. Peace.